Good evening. Welcome everyone to my weekly Node-RED development stream. I say weekly, most weeks. I had to, last couple of weeks, missed it for various reasons. A lack of internet connection doesn't help, and I was actually I was travelling for work last Monday, so just sort of ran out of time last week. But we're back, business as usual. So this is going to be an hour or so Node-RED development work, working on a few bits and pieces for the imminent 2.0 release, amongst other stuff going on. Hopefully the stream is going okay. I'm a bit late starting because I was a bit late sitting down at my desk to set things up, and my laptop's on a bit of a running slow at the moment. So I think everything looks okay, but do shout if things look iffy in the chat. Yeah, so what are we up to? Well, I can see in the chat Softy2K, Jim Bob Squelchy, welcome back guys. Do say hi in the chat if you're watching live. Do leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, on the replay. Let's get stuck in. I remember how to do this. Here we are, main screen. Ooh, look. We've got a little prompt on the... I'm going to have to I can't fix that live. Yeah, the way I've got the OBS streaming set up, this little chat window over on the right-hand side of the screen is a sort of embedded web page in my OBS setup, but it's not interactive. So if it throws up a dialogue like that, I've got no way to click it to dismiss that dialogue. And I've had to do some hacks previously to some CSS hacks to hide things that I can't click on. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you with trying to fix that now. I'm just going to crack on. So what are we up to? First things first, I wanted to give you a little preview of where things got to on what I was working on last time we streamed. I think it was last time we streamed. So this was Node-RED admin, the command line tool that we have for Node-RED, which is now actually bundled in the core of Node-RED as well, adding in an init command to help a user create a settings file. So I actually got to the point of there is a pull request for that. There is a... Oh yeah, no. Helps if I look in the right repository. Node-RED admin. So there is now a pull request for this, and what you get. So when you run Node-RED admin init, you get this quite nifty interactive prompt. So first it asks you for the settings file for it to write, and it defaults to the one in your home directory. I'm going to not do that one because I don't want to overwrite my actual settings file. And if it exists, are you sure you want to overwrite it? So first things first, do you want to set up user security? Say yes. Give it a username. Give it a password. I'm being opinionated, and I require you to give at least 8 characters for your password. And then you choose, is it full access or read-only access? And then do you want to add another user? But it defaults to no. Asks if you want to enable the projects feature. In this instance, I'm going to say no, in which case it then prompts you for a name for your flows file, defaults to flows.json. Asks for a passphrase for your credentials file. Editor settings. So it prompts you to pick from the available themes. And all I've done here is gone to Muccio's awesome Node-RED contrib themes collection and picked out the themes it provides. Default is obviously what you get out of the box, and you can pick one of the others. It does require you to make sure, as it says, to separately install that module if you want to use one of those themes, but that makes life easier. Pick for the editor, do you want to use Ace, the default, or the Monaco edit component? And with Steve in the chat there, you're glad to see. So, part of the challenge is help users discover what these new options are. Then node settings, do you want to allow function nodes to load external modules? So function external modules, for example, say yes. And then it's written a settings file, which if we go and have a look at, up top, it tells you when the settings file was created. And this is now using the new format settings file that's in the dev branch, where everything's been reorganized, better commented, more structure. So there you can see admin auth has been set up with the users array, with the hashed password. What else? If I keep going down, editor settings, editor theme. Well, you can see the theme is commented out because I didn't pick a theme. Projects, palette, code editor, there it's set to Monaco. I'm sure, Steve, there'll be options to do with theming of the editor, and can we do a better job of tying, if you say you want a dark theme, for us to automatically pick a default dark theme for Monaco, for example. I don't know. At the moment, if you set the editor theme, you've got to set the Monaco theme separately, and there's not a match of theme names. So just something I think we from a usability we need to think about. But anyway, so cool tool that helps you generate your settings file. So that will be in the next release. And we've got some other ideas around having a similar command line tool for setting up projects on the command line as well is on the to-do list. Anyway, but that's not what I'm doing tonight. I just wanted to share that because I like to, when I spend some time on something on a stream one week, it's nice to sort of come back and show where things have got to in the time since. Right, what are we going to do tonight though? Tonight, we are going to look at an issue reported in Slack recently. It's one I've known as it existed, but there's not really been a motivation to fix it. And Yash here has proposed a fix for it. Unfortunately, his proposed fix doesn't quite... It addresses the basic problem, but it doesn't quite address it the right way for how we want to address it. And the problem is, if you have a JavaScript map or set object on a message, then you don't see them in debug. So I think first up, we need to actually have a flow running that shows that in practice. So let's get Node-RED running. Here I'm in the dev branch. I'm just going to jump straight to creating a new branch, map set debug, and then grunt dev, and just wait the moment it takes to spin that up. Can you hear the torrential rain behind me? There's probably some ambient noise. It's absolutely pouring it down out there, and I've got the window open, I've just realised. And I can see the level meter when I'm not talking is sort of wobbling, and I think that's the rain outside. Anyway, maybe it's a nice ASMR. Is it relaxing having the white noise of the torrential rain outside? Here we go. So we are in, here we are in Node-RED. You may have seen a message pop up saying the flow debugger requires 2.0 beta 2 or later, which is entirely true, because I haven't merged a pull request into the code I'm running yet. Anyway, let's not worry about that. We are here to care about debug messages. So let's create a quick and simple test case. I'm going to have an inject function debug, and in the function node we're going to set message.payload to an object which has a set. Oh no, we're not. going to do this and a map S&M, and we're going to say S is a new set, s.add. We're just going to stick some stuff into it, so it's a not empty set. And we'll say m is new map, m.add a, is this right for maps? A1, B2. Okay. Deploy that. Oh, m not add. Oh, is it set? Yeah, there we are. Okay, so right, I'm just going to go somewhere here. I've got some no.warns firing every time I start and stop, which I'm just going to comment out because it's just noise in debug that you don't need to see. Right, back to where we were. Right, so now when I inject that message, which has the set and map, you can see my payload has the set and map properties, but when you actually expand them, it thinks they're objects and it thinks they're empty. So this is the bug. Debug doesn't know how to display set and map types. Part of the reason for that is we've always sort of worked on the assumption that messages are JSON encodable, and set and map are not JSON encodable. So what do we mean by that? If I just run a little node shell here, so let's just create a new map. We said what, A1. So when if I do a, I don't know, map.toString, oh, that doesn't help. Yeah, if you can see my map is has a mapping of A to 1. If I do json.stringify of m, I get the empty object. So this is the fundamental problem. Because we rely on json.stringify to encode stuff, json.stringify of a map or a set object gives you an empty object. It doesn't get its contents. So what are we going to do? Well, the protocol that the debug sidebar does for sending messages up to the editor to display already does a bunch of work. Already does a bunch of work to handle encoding of different types that aren't obvious in JSON, like big num, undefined, null, buffer. So we'll need to go in and add some handling of map and set. And this is where I'm stumbling as I try and remember where all this code exists. So we're in the Node-RED source tree, and the @Node-RED module, it's in the util, @Node-RED util module, lib util. Oh, grind, atom is, I don't know why atom is suddenly eating up a whole bunch of memory. That's what it does. So somewhere in here, all sorts of useful functions. In fact, if I fold it down, there we go. Fold it down so I can just scan through a bit quicker. Let's make it a bit bigger so you can see my text. Somewhere in here we have encode object. Here we are. So this is the function that debug uses, amongst others, in order to take a message and convert it to the JSON representation we use when we send it over the wire to up to the editor. It's a slightly odd API, I seem to remember. Which I don't have enough documentation here, so I've got to sort of remind myself how it works. You pass in two things. You pass in a message and some options. Now, confusingly, this is a debug message. It's not a Node-RED message. And there's, really need to go in and rename that variable just to remove this confusion. But the thing we actually care about is message.message. So this thing we're passing in here has a property called message, which is the actual JavaScript thing we need to encode. So first thing we do is we check, is an instance of an error? Is it an instance of a buffer? Is it an instance of an object? Type of. This is where I'm just trying to remind myself of what we're doing. And the reason I'm paused for a moment is I just want to double check. I don't think this is recursive. Because if you pass it an object, obviously the object, it's not just the message we're passing in, how to encode it, because each, it could be a regular JavaScript object, and one of its properties could be a map or a set, or indeed a buffer or any of these other subtypes. So there are two scenarios we need to cater for. If I just switch back to Node-RED, so here we're displaying message.payload. So the thing that's being passed to the code we're looking at is a normal JavaScript object with a set property and a map property. And it's those that we need to then get encoded properly. But there is another scenario where we ask debug just to show us message.set, or just show us message.map. And just to make things easier, let's put their names there and there. Okay, so now when I deploy and run this, we'll get 3 debug messages. And so you can see it's doing a toString on the object. So it's inconsistent based on, is it the top level object we're being asked to see, or is it the whole message? So yeah, there's definite lots of things to tidy up here and make it work better. So 2 scenarios. One is it's passed in as the top level object. The other is it's a property of another object. Yeah. Okay, I'm just scanning through. So we're saying is one of the checks to get us into this if block is whether message type is object, lowercase object like that. So let's just go back to our node shell and see what is type of, so a type of map, a type of a variable of type map, somewhat annoyingly gives us back object. Now, what we want to do is see, can we find, what was it? Oh, constructor dot. So one option is we could examine the constructor name and see, is it map? Because I bet set would do the same. So constructor dot name is set. So that works, except it wouldn't work if someone has a custom object. As in a custom. Is that an edge case we need to worry about? That someone decides to create a custom object of type map? I'm not going to sweat it for the moment. I'm just scanning through to see. Because if it's a set type object, then the closest, that kind of maps to an array, because it's albeit unordered, but it is a collection of things. Whereas a map is more like a regular object of key value pairs. It's a mapping of key to value. So we've already got code that knows how to handle arrays, and we've got code that knows how to handle objects. Yeah. I'm just trying to scan through here to see what's the right thing. So we do set message.format. We come in here because it is an object type. We come in here and we know that message format is going to be the constructor.name if it exists. So we know message.format is going to have been set to the right thing. And in fact, you can just see that is true. You know, set and map. The fact it says set and map there and there is coming from the constructor name. So we are pulling that information out. The problem is in this case, we're not encoding the actual contents properly. So we're coming down here. We're going to say is array here. Okay, I'm going to say here else if message.format equals set. We're going to do what are we going to do? We do this trick. What do we do? We need to make it look like an array, but because format has the value of set, then when it gets to the editor can sort of treat it like an array, but make it look like a set, if that makes sense. What we're going to do is set message.format equals to set. And I'm just doing this to try and be consistent with what we do with arrays, just to make it look good. And set has a size property rather than length. Let's see if that makes a difference. Yeah, I'm going to do this piecemeal because, again, as usual, I'm trying to think a few steps ahead of where we're going to get to. Yeah, so now you can see, last time I did it, it said set. Now I've run it this time and it's set with a 2. So that's more consistent with how we display arrays. It tells you what it is and its size. But it also shows that the code I'm writing here is being evaluated. What we're now going to do is replace the value message with this special type of object. And this is how we cheat. We create an object with this underscore underscore enc underscore underscore property, which is kind of a special value, special property that's unlikely to exist in a real world value. And it's a flag that the editor can use to recognize this as being an encoded property rather than just a vanilla property. So it's encoded and it's of type set. And the true length is size. And now what we need to do is let's do array from yeah. Now, it might not be the most efficient way, but I think it will do. So we take the array because we take the set, we get an array, and then we slice up to debug length, which is the limit, the fixed limit as to how many, the maximum number of properties we will show. And then we'll, and then we do record the true length so that if it's truncated, the editor can show us it's truncated. So that's saved. Let's run. Oh, just, oh, my favorite, the E fault that just happens from time to time. Which is why I've taken to running grunt in a while true loop. That whenever grunt crashes like that, it sleeps for a second and then restarts it. Which is a pain. But I like to think of it, it just gives me that moment of pause. Just gives me a chance just to contemplate life whilst I wait for it to rerun. Right, so now when we run... Ooh, lost connection. Okay, let's reconnect. Try it again. Okay, so it's... That wasn't what I was expecting, for it now to say object. I'll tell you that for free. I might just put a console.log. Are we actually getting what I think we should be getting at that point? Node's restarted. I hit inject. Okay, so we've got... Yeah, okay, well that's looking all right. You can see we've got the data, our 2 elements in the set. Length is 2 and the type is set to set. Funnily enough, if I change that to array, and then it's skipping that. One sec, let me... what's that, Steve? So object from entries gives a normalized object that can be stringified. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's something to look at. What I'm trying to do is, yeah, I'll look at that in a minute, Steve. I think for the moment I'm just trying to make sure this all gets passed through to the right bit of code, if that makes sense. Because the problem is now, having done this, we'll put that back to set, it's failing, it's not coming into here because neither of these things are true, and we need to still be coming in here because we still need to do the JSON stringify of it. What I'm just trying to decide is if I set isArray to true as kind of a hack, then it's going to... What's it going to do? It's going to end up doing a double slice there and there. So in fact, I wonder if I... Because there's no benefit doing the slice there if it's going to do the slice down here as well. So may as well just do the slice once. We were already incurring the penalty of building an array the full size of the set. So let's... Oh, okay. Let's run that cleanly again. So now it's saying it's a set, but it's giving us this string encoding of the object. Why has it done that? What have I done wrong? Do I need to add? You know, I think it's the right logic, it's just in the wrong place. I think what we're going to do is stick something actually inside this, the stringify function. Yeah, I'm not 100% pleased about this, but this will do it for the moment. So if it's a object, set, or map, then here if it's a set, then we do this work. Oh, except it's no longer a message or message, it's value, because we're inside this safe, we're inside the JSON stringify function. So this gets called for every key value in the object we're trying to encode with key and value. And oh no. Yeah, it's not checking format here, it's value.constructor.name. It's this thing again. So if it's a set, then we set so I'm getting muddled because, as I said, there are two cases where it's the top level thing and when it's a property within the array, and I'm sort of bouncing around. Having taken this logic out, I'm putting it back in. So outside, because we have to handle, we need code outside the stringify function down here, because we have to deal with the scenario that it's the top level object where we want to set message.format correctly. And then we'll do all that. Don't set is array because we don't need to do any more work. We do want to slice it, but we do need to still need to stringify it. So So we added a new flag saying this, whatever we're encoding, we know it needs to be stringified, because I've got to add the same thing for map in a second. So it needs to be stringified. Yeah, and then so that's going to do it for top level properties. So I'm going to take out that message. Right, I realise I've sort of made lots of changes and not necessarily vocalised what I'm doing, but if no need to reload, but no harm. Okay, we get some reference errors. Now, is that coming from the front end or the back end or what? Reference error encode object. Okay, so these are errors. Yeah, no, these, I think when I copied and pasted just now, I left in, yeah, value there, which should be message.message. And then down here, this needs to be value.size. Because down here we deal with we re-encode, we get passed in value, and we're trying to restructure it to be what we want it to be. Yeah, that's much cleaner. That's clean. It's still errors, still getting value not defined. Have I still got, where is value? Oh, there it is. So message.constructor. Cool. So it's still not quite going to plan. But, all right, if we look at the case where the set is a subproperty, you can now see the encoded version is there. It's done the right thing. It's converted the set into our special encoded object. And because we've not yet done any changes on the editor side to spot this special type of encoding, it's just displaying them as all the key value pairs as expected. So that's good. For set, that's now working on the back end, on the encoding side. Map we haven't done yet, and it's still not working in the case of it's a top level property, which does surprise me slightly. It's we set message.message to an object, and we set need stringify to true, so it's coming in here and it's about to get stringified. Okay, I think we need to go look at the front end code in a moment to understand that a bit better. But for now, I'm just going to add in map. Is this where the object from entries? Yeah, what's the most efficient way to go from a map? What have we got? So map.set. Let's just add another thing in. So m.entries, yeah, that gives us something that looks like that. And if we do object from entries, m.entries, cool. Yep, Steve, that's exactly what we need for the map case. Does that work as well for? Oh, I never added. So s.entries. That's interesting. Yeah, so for a set, s.entries gives you. That's strange. Why do it? Yeah, because the set, that is weird. You get key values, but they're the same value. They're the same thing because sets are just values. They aren't maps. So what? Yeah. Okay, but for a map, the object. This trick does it. We do have to worry about length if it's got thousands of properties. So I'm going to, yeah, s.keys. It was just like surprised that calling entries on a set gives the key, the tuple of key and value, even though there isn't the sense for key and value for a set. Anyway, so this is a map. Okay, so that all should kind of just work. So if I bring up Node-RED again, re-inject. Oh, type error. Slice is not a function. Oh, is that? That is because I bet, yeah, s.entries return, it's not an array, so it hasn't got slice. Let's have a look then. Can we do let's just get our entries object so I don't have to keep calling it. So type of E is an object. What was it? Now we can do array.is array. Yeah, so it's not an array, but I bet I can call array.prototype.slice.call on map entries. Has that done what I think? Oops. No. No, I can't do that. Okay. Can I do array.from? Yes. So here we can do array.from. So we get the entries, convert it to an array. We can then slice it to make sure it doesn't overrun, and then convert it to a key value object. All right. And when we inject that, cool. So looking at the object, you can see set and map. Ooh, okay, map still isn't coming through. I was about to triumphantly say that's worked, but it hasn't. Oh, and that's because I didn't do the equivalent of this block. Ooh. So if the construction name is map, then yeah, it is actually just a carbon copy. Good. So now when we run, yeah, we've got so when they are sub-properties, we see the encoded type, and when they are the top-level property, you can see we get the format right, but at the moment it is displaying it as just the raw string. But I think that's to be expected until we dive into the editor code that basically does the inverse of everything I've been doing here. So let's go do that. So now we switch into the editor client code, source, JS, util, UI utils, and I can't remember what it's called, but I do know the magic flag we look for is the _enc property. And you'll see there's begin. So here we are in, what function are we in? Build message element. So this is the utility that you give it one of these encoded objects and it constructs basically all of this UI, all the clicky, expandy, highlighted goodness. So we jump straight to all this logic around wherever we look, if it's gotten this enc property, and straight away we can deal with set very easily because we've got these internal flags saying is array or is array object. I can't quite remember what is array object means, but this is how we handle array and it's how we handle buffer. I just want to quickly check back on the backend code about